Ha ha! You better choose yourself and let's get it. Welcome to another episode on the Choose Yourself channel. Now, I usually do an intro, but today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Dr. Dan Gubler. I just met him this weekend. He's a mastermind in chemistry in the science field, been in that industry for his whole life, all the way generations ago. It's in his blood, y'all. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Dr. Dan Gubler. Thank you for coming. How you feeling?
My pleasure. I'm doing great.
My man. So before we get into the products, I want people to understand you, where you're from. Science clearly runs in your family, and your work reflects that. Can you give us a brief background on your scientific roots and what shaped your approach to health and what ultimately led you to partner with 3 International?
Yeah, so like you said, science is in my DNA, literally. My grandfather was a famous scientist. He was part of a team that discovered vitamin B12, vitamin B1, excuse me, thiamine in the body. He was part of a team that discovered copper metabolism. And so when growing up, I wanted to be like him. I loved him. I hung around in his lab. I pestered his graduate students and his postdocs. And when I was about 12 years old, my grandpa got cancer. And it was a defining moment for me. From that point on, I decided that I would be a chemist like he was and use science to transform health and wellness. And so that's what I've been doing. I went to school in biochemistry, undergraduate, went to graduate school in organic chemistry, started synthesizing drugs. And, I remember I was synthesizing drugs, and there was one day where I was asked to synthesize a drug, and they gave me some information. And part of that information was a molecule from a plant that did the same thing as a drug I was trying to synthesize. And that just hit me like a load of bricks. I was like, why am I trying to develop a drug, a synthetic drug, which has side effects, as we all know, when there's a molecule from a plant that does the same thing? And so from that point on, I switched into what we call the natural product industry. And I've been traveling around the world studying, isolating new molecules from plants and putting them in formulations.
Man, amazing. Well, thank you for making that choice and choosing yourself and really embracing authenticity. And so now you're the formulator and the mastermind behind the products of 3 International. So for context, there's a simple 6, which is what I take myself. I love it, man. I've been on gut health journey for about 3 years, and these are the best products, best brand that I've ever consumed. But can we just go over like 60 seconds, maybe 30 of each product, what's in them and what they're designed to do in the body?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 6 products. The first product is called Eternel. It contains 200 milligrams of resveratrol, CoQ10, glutathione, and it's an anti-aging product. It helps to turn back the clock. Because of environmental lifestyle factors, our aging just happens. Our body accelerates in aging. The next product is Revive. It helps to support a healthy inflammatory status in the body. If you ask any medical doctor, inflammation is a root cause of all disease. And so we need to reduce inflammation. And that's what this product does. Then we have Vitalite. This is our product that gives us the vitamins and minerals, the enzymes, the probiotics, the prebiotics, the chlorophyll that the body needs for proper function. Because we're eating food that is lifeless, right? It doesn't contain
Mhm.
vitamins and minerals. And so then we have our Purify product, which helps to detoxify the body. The body's full of toxins because of the air we breathe, the food we eat, the things we touch. Toxins are introduced into the body. And so this product helps to eliminate toxins. And then we have our collagen product. It's collagen. Everybody's heard about collagen. What makes this product different is it teaches the body how to make collagen again, because the body naturally makes collagen that reduces when as we age. And so this teaches the body how to make collagen again. And then our last one is our immune product. This supports a healthy immune system. The immune system is much more than just, not getting sick. And as you mentioned, Hakeem, gut health is so vital and important for overall health, all aspects of wellness. And this product can actually transform our gut microbiome.
Man, you did it all. You covered all the bases for the human body, y'all. Y'all got to tap in if you need more information. Tap in with me. I can get you the products, more information. So now there's a new wave, newish, peptides. So there's the GLP-1, which a lot of people are probably familiar with, but you've created this new product now that I just was introduced to. We actually launched, you launched it. I was there. It was amazing. He lit up the stage too, man. Amazing speaker. I was lit up. I was like, yeah, go Dr. Dan Gubler. He had me pumped. But what problem were you personally trying to solve when you started working on MBC 267? And why did you believe a natural GLP pathway mattered?
Yeah. So GLP-1, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 5 years, you know about GLP-1. This is an enzyme that can help with weight loss. It can control blood sugar and blood insulin levels. It was originally used as a treatment for diabetes. And people have been working on this for a long time. GLP-1 is a target in the body. And scientists actually first found the first GLP-1 drug actually in the saliva of a Gila monster, which is kind of a crazy thing.
Dang.
And then, yeah, yeah, I wonder who was, like, trying to collect the saliva from the Gila monster, like, "Come here, here, Fluffy," or whatever. But but anyways, they discovered a GLP-1 drug in the saliva, and they've been working on it over the last 10, 12 years, modifying it, optimizing it until we have these GLP-1 injectables that people are taking. But for me, I'm just all about natural health and wellness. Synthetic molecules, as good as they could be, they're more reactive, right? You wait until there's a problem and then you do something. Like when you go in and see the doctor, you see the doctor because there's an issue. I'm all about proactive wellness. And I love molecules from Mother Nature because molecules from Mother Nature are more gentle, they're more mild. As a synthetic chemist, when I would synthesize something, it was really exciting, but this drug had never existed in humankind. And the body had never ever seen this drug because of the connectivity of the atoms and molecules was different. And so it was so that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to see if there was a natural way to activate this GLP-1 receptor and transform health without all the side effects.
All natural obviously is the way to go, and it's hard to find those things nowadays in food, water, air, screens, soil, people. Like a lot of people are full of fake and toxins, and so that's why this product is so amazing. So, in a market flooded with synthetic GLP-1 drugs, what ethical line did you refuse to cross when developing GLP-3?
Yeah, so this product is a nutritional supplement. So we wanted to be true to that, right? Nutritional supplements are things that don't contain any pharmaceutical additives. And you might think, duh, yeah, but adulteration is a big problem in our industry, right? There's a lot of nutritional supplements people are selling that when the FDA analyzes them, they actually have Viagra and different pharmaceutical drugs in them. People will spike supplements with things like that. Or, if people who sell a supplement to lower cholesterol, they'll spike it with statins and stuff like that. And so for me to be true to myself, I wanted it to be all natural, really all natural. I wanted to see if we could find from nature new molecules, new peptides that could activate the GLP-1 receptor, help people lose weight, support metabolic health without relying on anything synthetic.
Yeah, if you wanted to be synthetic, you would have stayed where you're at. But you chose
Exactly.
not. Yeah, exactly. So, from a scientific standpoint, what does working with the body actually mean, and where do synthetic GLP agents diverge from that philosophy?
Yeah. So, one way to think about it, and I think we've heard about it in biology, is the way the body works is you have these enzymes, these peptides, which are like a key, and then you have receptors in the body, which are like the lock, right? And so the key goes into the lock, it opens it up, and that's what happens in the body. You have millions of these processes going on every single second. Synthetic drugs, the reason why they're so powerful is because it's like you put the key into the lock. It doesn't really go in all the way, but you basically jam it in and then you twist it and you break it off. Right. So the key's stuck into that lock. Right. So yeah, I mean, the door opens, but it's just hanging out there. Right. And so the reason why I love it is because these are keys that you could put it in, you could open the door, you could take it out, you could put it in, you could take it out. And and, and for me, that's really where the power is, especially if you want to support long-term health. I always get a kick of the pharmaceutical commercials that you watch on TV, right? Where they say, about this drug and whatnot, and people are holding hands and walking on the beach and cuddling on the swing. And then in the background, there's this person saying all the terrible things that might happen when you take this, and it's they have to disclose that, because they're clinical studies and whatnot. But the point is, there's a natural way that we could support health without going to these harsh pharmaceutical measures. Now, sometimes if you're in this death spiral, a pharma drug is something that can pull you out of it, right? But for me, I prefer an all natural approach.
Yeah, crisis and emergency for sure. Lab testing, like those things are imperative for, especially in society. But now, so we talked about the first pillar of the choose yourself process, which is the triggers, what triggered you to start choosing authentic and pure and natural ways. The next pillar would be environment. So synthetic versus natural. Mechanistically, how does MBC 267 interact with GLP-1 receptors differently than pharmaceutical agonists? And why does that matter long term?
Yeah, wonderful question. So NBC 267 is our peptide that we've discovered. And this contains a complex of peptides, 267 different peptides. That's why it's called NBC 267. And these are peptides from salmon and peptides from mushrooms. And in our studies, what we found is they actually bind to the GLP receptor in the same fashion as these synthetic agonists. But it actually, the key is the tightness, like we were talking about before. These synthetic analogs, these agonists, bind so tightly that they don't come off. They're in science, they're what we call suicide inhibitors. That puppy's bound on there and it's not coming off. Whereas when you naturally come on and off, like the NBC 267, what that does is it allows the body to relax a little bit. It still provides the result, the benefit, but it's not as harsh and it doesn't cause all of the. So when something binds so tightly and it's a suicide inhibitor, it has a rollover effect and it affects other enzymes, other targets in the body. For instance, these synthetic GLP-1 agonists, one of the issues is we lose lean muscle mass. And that's a big deal, especially as we get older. One of the most important things that we could do as we get older for men and women is to retain lean muscle. That's why we talk about working out in the gym and having good habits, especially this time of the year, the new year. We want to get into the gym. We want to build some muscle. We want to retain muscle. And one of the really demoralizing things that's happening is people are taking these synthetic GLP agonists and they're losing weight, but they're also losing muscle with it. And that's a big deal.
And bone too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Man, bone cartilage. I see. I could tell when people start using it. It looks like a pit bull head on a Doberman Pinscher body. I can see it, and your skin's and your face is all skinny. I'm like, that wasn't working out. That was something else. But you could tell for sure, just because you got muscles in your face too and your neck. So, but
That's right.
why was oral bioavailability and cellular absorption such a priority for you compared to the injectable GLP-1 drugs?
Yeah, for me, when I make a nutritional supplement, I want it to be easy to take. I want it to be convenient. And I like the oral delivery form. And as a supplement, the injectables, not an option. We want to do an oral delivery form. And for me, one of the key premises of what I do is you aren't what you eat, you are what you absorb.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, you can fill the body full of, whatever, but if it doesn't actually get into the cells, then it's of no use. I think we've all taken a multivitamin, right? And then you use the restroom and, and you look at the toilet and it's like, wow, that's my multivitamin in the toilet because it's just all goes straight through the body. And so for me, it's all about absorption. And with NBC 267, one of the things that we did is we've used two different cellular absorption technologies. That's what we pride ourselves here on at 3 is our cellular absorption technologies. So we have what we call polyphenol complexation and adjuvants that make sure that those peptides actually get into the cell so they can do their job.
Dang, that is mind blowing, man. That is amazing. So, is there a point where appetite suppression becomes dysregulation rather than healing? And how did you guard against that in formulation?
Yeah, there can be for sure. One of the really cool things about the body is it's what we call in biology a negative feedback loop. So basically, if you have this cup in the body and it's a cup of water and it's empty, once that cup starts to get full and once it gets topped off, it's actually not going to cause any negative health benefits. You can't really go above and beyond it. If you pour water over, the water just drains out. So the body actually will use that excess and break it down and use it for different things. And that's called negative feedback loops. And so with this GLP-1, when we're targeting this, as long as we're selectively targeting it and we're not messing around with the other stuff, It's pretty selective and it's pretty mild.
Well, dang. Well, hey, y'all heard it here, man. Tap in. We got more info for you. It's been steady, tested, front end, back end, through the middle, and everything as well, right?
It has. Yeah, we do third party testing on our products, meaning that when we make something and when we say it has NBC 267, well, what happens is we send it to a third party lab, and that third party lab tests it for NBC 267. And they'll give us a certificate saying, yeah, we tested it and it does. And a lot of companies in the supplement space, they don't do third party testing, which is crazy. They just say, hey, trust us. We say it has this on the label. So you should just say, "Yeah, yes, sir, it has," but we do third-party testing because we wanna make sure that what we say is in the product is actually in the product as verified by a third party.
Yeah, my credit report is 780. Just let me get that loan. Just
That's right, I'll write it out on a piece of paper for you. Here it is, right?
Thanks, man. Well, now we're at a all-time high for illness, sickness, internally, lack of gut health, leaky gut, all these things, and surgeries, mental health especially. So for people with a history of organ transplants or immunosuppression, what considerations should be evaluated before using a peptide-based supplement like GLP-3?
Yeah. So one of the key things is anybody with a pre-existing medical condition or taking a pharmaceutical drug should consult with their personal physician before taking it. And I say personal physician, because a lot of us in the age of social media will be looking at some doctor influencer or whatnot, and they're saying this or that. And we're like, oh, yeah, cool. I could go ahead and do it. No, you need to talk with your doctor because they know your medical history. They know what pharmaceuticals you might be on, and they can guide you in the right path. One of the things that I love about MBC 267 is it's natural, right? It's peptides from salmon and peptides from mushrooms. So, as long as you can eat salmon and as long as you can eat mushrooms, then, you should be good to go. But, just to be safe, you should always talk with your doctor.
And that's all that's in there.
Yeah, our peptide complex is natural peptides from salmon, natural peptides from mushrooms, and then we have a couple other ingredients. We have hops, we have saffron, and ginseng. But yeah, as far as our NBC 267 complex, it's salmon. It's mushrooms. It's natural. But the cool thing is the clinical studies. Those peptides that we found in there actually activate this receptor. So I just think that it's so cool. Mother Nature really, she has the secrets for health and wellness. It's just a matter of going out there and finding them. There's it's interesting when I was a synthetic chemist, and I would make drugs, I'd be so proud of myself, right? That I made this or made that. And then I'd be reading a scientific paper a month or two after about a new molecule that was discovered in nature and it beat this drug that I synthesized by like 10 times. I'm like, man, Mother Nature's got me again, right? As smart as I think I am, Mother Nature is just taking me to the woodshed, and smacking me around.
Man, Mother Nature is the ruler of all, man. That's God on earth
Yeah,
for sure. And that's why we have to take care of it, by taking care of ourselves and being able
that's
to
right.
stay mindful and consume with intention and not just glutton and convenience and instant gratification and dopamine and waste. Like that's, we're at all-time high for people and all-time low for resources. So we're at a tipping point here, and this is a good opportunity to, you know, decrease that footprint. So, and we talked about absorption rate. People have leaky gut and IBS more than ever now because of the toxins in the glyphosate and the pesticides and chemicals. So, when someone has compromised gut integrity, what role does GLP signaling play in repairing versus stress?
So GLP-1, one of the great things that it does is it supports healthy insulin levels, and insulin is produced in the pancreas. And so if you want to help with leaky gut, one of the major things that you need to do is you want to make sure that insulin levels are functioning properly. And you also want to make sure that blood sugar levels are in balance because high blood sugar levels can cause inflammation, which can lead to leaky gut and all of those issues. This is negative cascade process. And so when you regulate GLP-1, you're regulating that process. So a lot of people will say, well, I don't really want to lose weight or I don't need to lose weight. And so I shouldn't take a GLP-1. I think everybody should be taking a natural GLP-1 because of all of the different effects that it has in the body. It's much more than just this, help to support a healthy weight. It helps with brain health. And, there's all these crazy studies coming online, showing that GLP-1 can even help with bone health. And so it's really one of these miraculous master regulators of the body.
Man, you said on stage on Saturday that you were taking it. What's been your experience since you've started? How long has it been?
Yeah, so I've been taking a natural GLP-1 for a few months, as I've been working on the different formulations and whatnot. For me, it's amazing to see the food noise is gone, right? And so we talk about food cravings and craving food, and I talked about it on stage, but food noise is a big thing. And a lot of us might not understand what that means. That's actually a scientific term, believe it or not. Scientists have been talking about it for the last year or two. But food noise is basically where the kitchen is singing to you, right? The pantry is singing to you. You're sitting on the couch and you hear these, seductive voices coming from the kitchen. Come eat me, right? And you think about what you have, or, I want to eat this, or I want to eat that, or I have this treat, or I have that treat, and you just can't turn it off. And so one of the cool things about these GLP-1s, and I've experienced this with our natural GLP-1, GLP-3, is that the food noise is gone. There's really no desire to eat unless you're hungry. And that's the cool thing about the body. When we're talking about regulating GLP-1, it's not like I'm never going to eat ever again and you're going to waste away. No, it's just that the systems in the body are balanced so that when you want to eat, you truly are hungry and you're going to eat. And then when the body truly doesn't need nutrition and nutrients, then there's no signals that you need to eat. And so you're good. You stay away from the kitchen. You eat only when you're hungry and you don't eat otherwise. And the body's in balance. That's how it's meant to be. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Let's talk about how the ghrelin hormone sometimes we confuse it with needing to eat food versus needing to consume nutrients and how the simple six can satisfy that so we don't have to deal with that noise.
Yeah. So ghrelin and leptin, those are the two hunger hormones in the body. They're two of the hunger hormones in the body. What can happen though is that when we eat lifeless foods, foods that don't contain any medicinal molecules, no vitamins and minerals that are bioavailable and absorbable. When we don't eat any of those, then the systems of the body get all squirrely, all out of balance. And so ghrelin and leptin can be going crazy, saying, hey, that we need to eat something and we do. But like you said, Hakeem, the problem is the things that we're eating are not nutritious for us. So there's macronutrients. We all know those, protein, fat, carbs. And then there's micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. And then there's phytonutrients, medicinal molecules in the food that we eat. Ultra processed foods, you eat some chips or sandwich cookies or whatnot. It contains none of those. And so what happens is the body just gets thrown out of balance. The master regulators of the body, the genes, the chemical switches of the body, they go haywire and they malfunction. And so ghrelin and leptin go crazy saying we need to eat, 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 eat. And so we are. But what the body's telling us is we need to eat medicinal food and we're not. And so it's just this vicious cycle that happens where and that's one of the reasons why we're in this health crisis.
That simple six will eliminate that confusion because it's literally everything you need to reach homeostasis.
Yep, exactly.
Have you seen evidence that improving GLP signaling indirectly improves gut brain communication or vagal tone?
That's shown in the scientific literature. We haven't seen that with our GLP-3 yet. This is a brand new product. We're in the process of running clinical studies. We have a list, and we have a list of 6 or 8 other clinical studies that we want to run. So that'll be fleshed out in the future. But it is known in the scientific literature that GLP-1 interacts with another master regulator in the brain called BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor. And BDNF is like the GLP-1 of the brain. It's a really crazy, cool target. And pharmaceutical companies are making drugs trying to target BDNF. But the really cool thing is food, tomatillos, tomatoes, white kidney beans. These contain molecules that activate BDNF. And so BDNF and GLP-1 work hand in hand. And so it stands to reason that our GLP-3 will regulate uh, the brain through BDNF, but that's something that we'll need to figure out.
So what about its impact on dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, neurotransmitters?
So GLP-1, when we regulate GLP-1, what we're doing then is we're regulating blood sugar and blood insulin. And those two are the two biggest factors that help to regulate the gut microbiome, right? So we have good bacteria, bad bacteria in the gut. Good bacteria like to eat medicinal molecules, phytonutrients. Bad bacteria like to eat sugar. And so when GLP-1 signaling is out of balance, if it's gone haywire, then there's excess sugar in the gut. Bad bacteria overwhelms it, and then what what happens to that then is you have negative signaling. You don't have the good gut brain signaling anymore because the good bacteria in the gut that produce the neurotransmitters are gone. They're dead.
Dang, yeah. See, we're trying to get back in balance, y'all. It's a challenge, but it's
Yeah.
possible now. Thanks to Dr. Dan Gubler, man. Appreciate you. I'm glad to be on this journey with you. And you talked about blood insulin levels. Now, a lot of people are struggling with diabetes because there's sugar in friggin' everything now. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't even get bread anymore. The bread nowadays is not the same bread that was in the Bible. Okay, so don't try to make the excuse, y'all. But clinical data suggests a negative 6% reduction in blood sugar. How meaningful is that for someone with insulin resistance or early type 2 diabetes?
That's huge. You might be like minus 6%. That's not a big deal. That's huge. I mean, that's the difference between the body being in balance and the body being out of balance. And so, because the body functions on really small margins. And and that's the way it is in life, right? These small things that you do every single day make all the difference, right? When you take time to meditate, when you take time to read, when you take time to take care of your body, these are small things. Even if you do it for a few minutes each day, compounded over time, that's the difference between success and not success. And so the same thing happens in the body. These margins, although it might be really small, done collectively every single day, every single meal over time has huge benefits for human health. It could be the difference between healthy, vibrant, and strong and bedridden.
That's what I say. Do 5 push-ups. If you want to start exercising, just do 5 push-ups, meditate for 2 minutes, write down 3 things you're grateful for, close your eyes and say thank you, God. That's a good foundation. That's a good start. You'll build from there once you adjust. But yeah, small changes over time, compound effect. So how does GLP-3 support insulin sensitivity without forcing the pancreas into overproduction?
So the way that it works, and it's really cool, when this product, when GLP-3, when it binds to the GLP receptor, that actually helps with insulin production, it helps with insulin regulation, and it helps with blood sugar production. So when that receptor is turned on, like opening the door with the key, opening the lock, opening the door, what that does is it lets all of the sugar that's in the bloodstream, it ushers it into the cell. Because people are saying sugar is bad. Well, sugar's not bad. Sugar is fuel. We just don't want sugar in the bloodstream. If it hangs out in the bloodstream, that's too bad. That's bad, right? And insulin rises to meet the sugar in the bloodstream because it's insulin's job to pull sugar out of the bloodstream. But GLP-1 is the X factor in that. When GLP-1's working properly, you're never going to have really high blood insulin levels. And so that's the key.
Hmm. Man, so could GLP-3 be positioned as a supportive metabolic tool rather than a replacement for lifestyle change? And why is that distinction critical?
Yeah. So when it comes to supplementation, a lot of people are like, well, I just want to take a pill, right? I don't want to make any diet or lifestyle changes. I just want to take a pill, and in reactive wellness, that's how a lot of people are when they go see the doctor. The doctor says, well, you need to make some lifestyle changes. They're like, well, can't you just write me a script, right? Just write me a prescription. I want to take a pill. Well, due to lifestyle factors, environmental and lifestyle factors, you think pollution, stress, anxiety, soil depletion, poor diet, like you were mentioning before, it causes this gap in between where we are and where we need to be. And people say, well, just exercise and eat healthy. Well, like you said, Hakeem, so eloquently, the food that we're eating today is not as nutritious as the foods our parents and our grandparents ate. The medicinal molecules, due to soil depletion, are just not there. And so we need something to bridge the gap. And that's why I love what I do. I'm all about natural health and wellness. I talk about foods and medicinal molecules in food on my social media. I'm passionate about that. But I'm also a strong believer that we need science-based supplementation to bridge that gap, just because we're not on a we're on an unequal playing field now in the world that we live in today, and we need help, we need tools, and this metabolic boost complex 267 MBC 267 peptide is a tool that we can use to bridge that gap.
Before I was bridging the gap, I thought I was healthy. I was an athlete my whole life with a six pack, worked out every day. And I thought I was healthy. Slept fine, worked all day, was still funny, showed up online, was still cognitive and aware. And then when I started taking care of my gut, I noticed everything elevated. And then when I went back into the old habits, I was like, oh my God, I used to do this. I used to live here. So you don't even know what the potential is until you actually do bridge the gap. And then you actually change your baseline of choosing life.
That's right. The body is a performance machine, right? It's meant to be a 900 horsepower car, a performance car. But like you said, most of us are just driving around on, 80, 90, 105 horsepower, right? And we're just putzing around trying to get through life. But when you unlock that potential, when
Yeah.
you tap into, and you use supplementation and health and wellness and all these tools that you talk about to your people, you plug in those cylinders, you turn on those spark plugs, and then, yeah, now you're humming on 600, 700, 800, 900 horsepower, and life is different. The things you're able to do, the way your brain is able to think, to move from topic to topic, and and not just that, but to be present, to show kindness and
Hmm.
compassion and care and concern to those who you love. Because the people close to us, a lot of times we treat the worst, right? Just because we're just running so thin, so dry that we get home and we just we explode like a volcano and we collapse. But when we really tap into the body, we have the energy that we need to be our best self no matter where we're at.
That's what I say. You got to invest in yourself to be your best of yourself and fill up your cup so you can pull from an overflow. Now, I tried fasting for 72 hours recently and I got to 40 and I was depleted and depressed and irritable and all kinds of stuff. So I drank a green smoothie, pure organic smoothie, and I felt just fine. But I want to get to a point where I can do 72 hours because I've heard so many people say they had plantar fasciitis for years. They had arthritis for years and they fast for 72 hours and all of a sudden it's just gone on hour 72. So from a biochemical perspective, does GLP-3 technically break a fast, and does that answer differ depending on the goal, whether it's autophagy versus appetite control?
GLP-3 will not break your fast because it doesn't contain any sugars or anything like that. So there's no carbohydrates at all in GLP-3. There's protein and there's medicinal molecules. We have natural flavors in there, molecules from orange and from vanilla that flavor it. And then we have stevia. So it's not going to break your fast. But what it will do is it will help to get you through that fast easier and stronger, because when you fast, obviously glucose and insulin levels are key, right? Because as the longer you fast, the more glucose levels are depleted and insulin levels rise and fall with it. But the problem is, if our glucose and insulin levels are squirrely and they're crazy and they're out of balance to begin with, and then we start to fast, it's basically like we're trying to run a 100-meter dash, on one foot. We're hopping, with our arm behind our back. So GLP-1 can help to balance all that out so that when we do fast, the body's now firing on all cylinders, in our sports car analogy, and we're able to go through it easier. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be a breeze, but we're going to be able to get through it easier.
What are your thoughts about fasting? Do you fast, and what is the impact at 72 hours? Why do people say they've cured these long time chronic pains?
Yeah, I do. I do intermittent fasting. I usually do the 18-6 fasting, where I eat at a 6-hour window and then I fast for 18 hours. I also have done the OMAD 1 meal a day fasting. I've done that. I do fast for 24, 48 hours once a month. The 72-hour fast, I've done that a little bit. I haven't done that a lot, but I'm a big believer in fasting. Even 12, 14, 18, certainly 24 hours, you get some great benefits because the key is for the body to relax. Right? The body's homeostasis, as you mentioned before so eloquently, and everything needs to be in balance. But when we don't eat, that just allows the body to relax. It allows it to do some other things, because when food comes in, the body is all hands on deck, breaking down those nutrients and moving them to all different parts of the body. When we fast and it doesn't have to do that, it doesn't have to juggle, 10 plates at a time. It could focus on other areas that are more neglected in health and wellness. And so I'm a big believer of fasting. It's powerful, it's effective, it's Mother Nature's way. You think about, the hunter and gatherer lifestyle, the
Hmm.
paleo lifestyle and whatnot. You weren't always eating all the time. At certain points in time, you were going without food, right? And obviously we don't want to starve ourselves, and we live in a really good technology age. People say so much about how great paleo is and whatnot. Well, I don't want to go back and live like a caveman. I don't want to go back and live like a hunter and gatherer, but there's principles there, to not always glutton ourselves with food, to actually relax a little bit is a good thing. It's kind of like unstringing the bow when it comes to work or social media. It's great to do a social media fast. It's great to go on a vacation where you don't even think about work because the body can relax and think about things and process things. And when you come back, you're even better, you're even more effective. And that's how it is with fasting with the body.
And it changes your relationship with whatever you were fasting from, because sometimes we get caught up in a consumption loop, and it forces you to go inward into choosing intention over emotion, using hunger as the emotion. It's spiritual. It's in several, we're talking about Sabbath, we're talking about Lent, we're talking about 40 days of fasting. It's spiritual because it forces you to be with you and not rely on some type of instant dopamine, some flavor to get you to feel, that's good. Oh, sugar. Oh, cheese. Oh, whatever you like. You got to really tap into your intention. Like, what did I say I would do? I said 48 hours. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it, Dr. Dan. I'm gonna make it 48, man. I was struggling at 40.
I'm sure you will, man.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna try it. The GLP-3 to get to that 72 because I've had turf toe since 2014. I got tackled and I played for 2 years, but it didn't flare up until I moved to New York City and I had to walk freaking everywhere and work out.
Uh-huh.
And then my job was sales, so I was walking around to accounts and flared up. Then it went up to my hip, my labrum, and then I felt it in my back. I was like, okay, I got to start taking care of this thing. And somebody told me they fasted and I don't know if it was the inflammation or the stiffness, but they said it went away on their second 72-hour fast in a month. How does that happen?
Yeah, fasting is really good at reducing inflammation because you have these genes, the chemical switches of the body, and they're stuck in the on position because of lifestyle factors and whatnot. It's like the accelerator in the car. You put a brick on it and it's just going the whole time. Fasting allows the body to take the brick off of the accelerator so that it can slow down, right? You slow down so that you can go fast, and that's how the body works. And one of the best things that it does when you're fasting is it can help to resolve inflammation. Because inflammation is crisis mode for the body. And again, when the body is dealing with all these nutrients, it's in crisis mode a little bit and it doesn't have time to look at these deep seated issues, like chronic inflammation. It's only when you fast and you pull away from the nutrients that the body could then look at these pockets of chronic inflammation, and the firefighting crews can actually go to work fixing the broken grid, the broken systems of the body.
Yeah, that's and sleep too, like my dreams. When I
Yes.
fast, like because your body's not digesting when you sleep. That's why they say don't eat close to when you sleep too. But in
Yep.
reference to one meal a day or extended fasting, how do you see GLP-3 helping train hunger awareness rather than just eliminating it overall?
Yeah, GLP-3 will be very beneficial for fasting. And it's not like it's the wonder cure, it's not like it's going to transform everything. It's still going to help give you that proper relationship with food, but it's going to be a tool that will help you to do that better. It's kind of like doing a construction project where something takes you 12 hours because you don't have the right tool, versus when you have the right tool, you get it done in 45 minutes
Mm.
and then you can move on to something else. This product is a tool that will help you to help the body to get into the right state that it needs with fasting, and even take you further, right? So that fast that you need to do or you want to do for 24, 48, 72 hours, you might get there in 18 hours. You might get there in 24 hours using this product because it's helping the body get back into balance more quickly.
So I could get the 72-hour benefits in 24? Dang.
I don't know. I don't
Well,
know. Okay.
I'll be the first
But
one to try it for you. If that turf toe is gone in the day, I tell you, Dr. Dan, I'm screaming from the tip top of these skyscrapers in New York City.
that would be awesome. But that's the power of giving the body the nutrients that it needs and just making sure that everything's firing properly.
Mhm. Okay, so when you created GLP-1, do you have intentions on creating more peptides with natural resources?
We do. Peptides are powerful. They targeted different systems of the body. I've done a lot with small molecules, things like resveratrol and curcumin and whatnot. And I love those. Peptides expands the arsenal a little bit because they bind to different receptors and they work through different mechanisms of action in the body. And I love peptides. I've been doing a lot of research, traveling around the world, studying different peptide sources, and so, yeah, we're going to use peptides in the future. We already use peptides in some of our other products. We mentioned the Simple Six. We have a skincare line that's amazing. It's called our Visage skincare line. And it's actually a neurocosmetic. We have peptides in there that when you put it on the skin, it sends a signal to the brain to increase neurotransmitter production. And so it's really cool technology, and that uses peptides. And so peptides are one of the new frontiers, and we're going to keep studying new different peptides. What I'm so excited about, while the industry is so focused on synthetic peptides and studying those and geeking out about those, BPC 157 and TB 500 and CJC 1295 and whatnot. These all sound like Star Wars droid names or whatever. But while the industry is all geeking out about those synthetic peptides, well, that's good. But my focus is these natural peptides. I know that there's more natural peptides that are out there, and people really aren't focusing on those. And if past history is any indication, my gosh, these natural peptides, like we said, Mother Nature, she knows how to do it. And so I'm just hoping that she's gracious enough to let me find some more of these so that we can just really transform health in a long-term, proactive, mild, gentle way.
When you formulate, are you mindful like, oh, I want to make this vegan or I want to make this for certain people? Or is it just like what I get, I create, and then it's applicable to whoever it is?
I want to make it as accessible as possible. I want to remove any barrier of entry. That's why I like to make sure that it tastes good or at least tastes okay. That's why, especially with this GLP-3, we went with the drops, the tincture, because that's easier for a lot of people than swallowing pills, right? A lot of people, especially nowadays, don't like to swallow pills and capsules. And so that's why we went with this liquid form. And yeah, I try to make it as generally accessible as possible, but at the same time, you have to let science be the guide.
Yeah.
These peptides, MBC 267, they're peptides from salmon. So if you don't eat fish, then that could be a problem. Now, do I wish that it would come from 100% from plants? Sure, but we need to just go where the science goes. Will we find new peptides that can activate GLP-1 that are from plants? I hope so. But what we have right now from salmon and mushrooms is pretty darn good.
Man, I can't wait to try it now. Now that I've had this conversation, I can't lie. At first, I was like,
Yeah.
"Uh-oh," because you hear the stories about it. Because the synthetic, obviously, the stories from that are horrific, especially the ones that make it to the news. And you said on stage, like 12%. I don't know if it was you or somebody else that 12% of people take the synthetic peptides, but it seems like 100% because that's all they talk about when things go wrong. So, I'm excited to tap into the natural way. If GLP-3 succeeds the way you envision, what kind of relationship do you hope people will have with food, hunger, and choice 5 years from now?
With the years I've been studying health, one of the phrases that I love, and it's been used a lot, is mindfulness. People talk a lot about mindfulness when it comes to meditation and different things to just become more self-aware, right? The word mindfulness is in my mind becoming more self-aware of something. And so with this GLP-3, what I hope that it does is it helps people be more self-aware of their eating habits, so that they're not captive. It's just a really hard feeling. I think we've all felt captive or addicted to something, right? Whether it's food or social media, right? Where we're saying, I'm not going to do this again. It's 2026. I've turned over a new leaf. I'm not going to eat this, 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 this. And before you know it, here we are neck deep into our favorite vice, right? Whether it's, peanut M&Ms or ice cream, whatever it is, right? But, but I just hope that this technology, this new peptide will help people to get in touch with themselves so that they, um, you know, and I don't know if we mentioned it before, but when it comes to weight management, it's a metabolic disorder, right? No white knuckling or whatnot will get you through. We need to change physiology so that you could change yourself. It's like with mental health. A lot of times people take these medications for mental health is so that it can give them the tools that they can be in a position to start to take charge of their mental health, right? Because sometimes we're so far removed that doing something like that can be just so daunting and even not possible. I hope that this product and this technology gives people the tools so that they could be mindful about what they're eating, so that they can lose weight, they can manage their weight. If they want to eat something, that's delicious, that's full of sugar, well, great, they can. But then they also have the discipline and the tools and the knowledge to pull back when they can, so that they could be in full control of their life. That's what I hope will be accomplished with a product like this.
Man, you talking about the choose yourself lifestyle because we live 80% healthy, 20% fun, 100% happy. Life can't be redone, but you got to have the
Love
systems in
it.
place to replenish and recover. And
Yeah.
that's why we do 30 days, no vices, no sugar, liquor, weed, porn, nicotine, caffeine, no gluten, no grains, no gambling, no video games, and no dairy. I'm on day 8 and I feel great and my skin is glowing. And 3 helps with that. And there's one more. There was something that Holly said, who was also amazing. She said that the studies of people's other addictions, other than food, have decreased as well. How does that happen?
Yeah, so when you change physiology in the body by regulating something like GLP-1, that has a ripple effect throughout the entire body because when you talk about addiction, that's a metabolic disorder as well. There's certain receptors in the body that are over firing, they're under firing, right? These genes are either stuck in the on position and the off position. And when you change physiology in a good way in one area of the body, that sends a ripple effect to other areas of the body so that they could actually transform and change. And so it's a really powerful thing. And again, it's this compounding. You do something small for the body and the ripple effect can actually be big somewhere else.
Man, my dad runs a sober house, and they're addicted to tobacco and chips and vapes. I'm like, I'm gonna have him get some of these and see what happens to the addictions in there. But man, Dr. Dan Gubler, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you so much for dedicating to this vision and helping people heal from the inside out. Where can people find you if you have any information, a website, a book, resources? Tap in with you.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about the company and the supplements I formulate, they can go to 3international.com and check those out. And I share on social media. You can look up Dan Gubler, and I share about what foods to eat, how to be healthy, how to be strong. I do have some other assets that I'm going to be coming out with here pretty soon, and I'll announce those that I'm really excited about. That'll help people to learn more about how to be healthy and how to eat well.
Man, you heard it here first, y'all. You got to filter your senses and GYM. That's grow your mind. In the meantime, in between time, big dream time, gut clean time, routine time, dopamine time, keep the gratitude in your attitude and always choose yourself.